Okay, guys and gals, today I'm back again with Steve Alexander. We're going to go part 2 on this because now the reality is you own this boat.
Yeah, that's the reality.
It's a 40-year-old trawler, and there was this brief second there. I just remember us both walking on the boat. You know, all the money's cleared. This is your boat now. You own the boat.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get ready, and we're all jacked up, and let's get this party started. But we did take a step back, and the smartest thing I think we did is we checked the weather.
Right. Yeah. Checked, some of the charts and the NOAA site for the river flows and some of that. And we were kind of on the fence about that because the charts showed that it was kind of like right on the border, but then you had contacts and knowledge.
Local knowledge is everything.
Right. And made calls. Right.
Yeah, and we called a particular guy that knows this run better than anybody in the world, so let's talk to him.
Yeah.
We talked to him, and he said, yeah, you guys would be fine if you want to burn a shit ton of fuel.
Yeah.
And because you're going to be fighting a 6-knot current.
Yeah, 4 to 6 because they'd had heavy rains up in Memphis and Huntsville, and the Tennessee River was releasing a lot of water down to them, and they were having to pass it on.
And we wouldn't have known that without the local knowledge.
That's right. Yeah.
So we called him, and so it was a no-go on the trip. But now we get in the boat here. You have your first night, and things don't go exactly smooth. He gets up the next morning and he's got weird noises. I go, how'd you sleep? And he goes, the toilet didn't work exactly.
Yeah, I was up and down a few times, due to some different things that, and you have this kind of, weird feeling that, is the boat going to be sinking while I'm sleeping on it? Because a pump would kick on here. Or I'd hear this humming and, found out later, when you came back over and we looked at a few things that everything was fine. It was just, air conditioning pumps and this, that, and the other. And so, the toilet worked fine. It was more of a user error. Yeah. Or what I always called in technology I/O, which people think is input output. No, it's idiot operator.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It was and then the other thing, anyway, it was funny because you were, I don't want to say shaken, but you were a little bit,
Yeah, that shaking came later. When we took it out. But so I mean, there's just it's an older boat and it's got its nuances, and you just have to learn it. You have to learn the boat. Right.
And then so now a couple of things are coming up. We'll talk about this in a second. Is you actually take it for your first ride yesterday.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're don't have the experience of a 50-foot twin screw boat.
That's right. Yeah. So most of my boating experience was in my younger days in the coast of South Carolina. I had driven some boats up to about 30 feet, and I think a 40-footer once, and but mainly singles or outboards. Been in some different circumstances onshore and offshore, but never a boat configured like this.
Yeah, because I think it's important for people to understand what you're getting into here, because I think you were, I don't want to say like arrogant to say that you could drive the boat, because it's a lot like owning an airplane. I mean, you got to be ahead of the boat.
Right.
And you just don't have that hand-eye coordination yet.
Right. Yeah, it's practice. It takes practice. It takes, you hear a lot about muscle memory and hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, right.
And, I did fly airplanes when I was younger. I got a private pilot's license, just visual flight, weather only, simple airframes. And even then, you'd move from a low-wing Piper to a high-wing Cessna. You needed to go with an instructor, and get checked out on that airframe. And I think boats are similar in that, you may think it's, a very similar or nearly identical boat, but I can tell you it's going to handle a little differently than you expect if you've never been on one.
Yeah, and these 50-foot trawlers are, twin screw. For me, I don't want to say I make it look easy, but
You sure made it look easier than I made it look. I can tell you that.
Well, that's 6,000 miles and 200 dockings. You can tell that it shows.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
This is no joke. Why I got my captain's license, why it's important people realize just because you have a captain's license doesn't mean you can operate a boat.
Right.
You have to get that practical experience.
Right.
And for you to just jump in this thing and think you're going to take off, it's literally like, I've said this before, like driving on ice, it's like driving a car on ice. You have no control.
Well, even earlier I thought about, do I really should I get Paul to go with me or not? And now I'm thinking, how stupid could I have been if I wouldn't have had you to go with me, right?
This is a tricky marina to get in and out of, because you got tight turns going in and out, and so this is a really good marina for you to learn in, because even getting out of here is tricky, coming in is tricky. And once you can maneuver that, you'll be fine. But I think people think that, though. I really do think that
I was one of those people.
But now you know.
Yeah, you got to step back and take a more pragmatic and reality, based look at things.
Because I think
and don't get in over your head, right?
Because if you do, you're just going to get in trouble. This thing's going to be up against the wall, or hit another boat, even worse. And then so it's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? Just get some experience, get somebody to help you, and make sure it's the right person too that has the experience. Because if like a guy that has a sailboat isn't going to be able to help you with this thing, they just won't.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about it real quick. You're up there at the helm. You make your first turn out of here. I think everything went pretty smooth with that. You're feeling pretty confident.
Yeah, I mean, we got kind of through some of the twists and turns out of the marina, and I was nervous. There was some butterflies, I think, more than nervous. Anticipation.
Yeah.
And then we kind of come to the last turn of the marina, and there was some gusty winds a little bit yesterday and a little current, and I kind of got to a place where the boat wasn't responding quite as I thought it would, and you kind of get a little edgy. I always use the quote from that movie, Tommy Boy. I feel like Jojo the Indian boy, and I kind of go like this, and so you were there for me, right? And you kind of took it and you said, here's what you need to do, and then we got it on out, and we
I think that final last turn going out, but you had never driven the boat, so I'll give you that one. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you got to learn how to get this thing to turn with no speed and keep from hitting other boats.
Right.
And you just weren't there yet.
Yeah,
but it was good that you tried, because it puts that coordination in your hand.
If you don't do it, if you're scared of it, you're never going to do it, right? And so I hated landing, low wing airplanes in a heavy crosswind, because you have to crab and slip and then correct it at the last second before your wheels hit the deck, and it's tense. It's tense.
It's a lot like that.
Yeah.
And the same thing here, though. I struggled with twins. I just absolutely struggled. And then when I made the jump up to the 50-footer, because there's a big difference between a 20,000-pound, 35-foot boat and a 50,000-pound boat, because it does feel sluggish. And trying to get that front end to whip around with no thrusters or anything, you got to kind of know what you're doing, and you can't. You got to. It's not just putting your gears. It's also may have to throw a little throttle in there, and you got to know when to do it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But so we go out, we get to the fuel dock, everything's fine. You take off the fuel dock.
Yeah.
And then we just take you down the canal and just let you practice going straight down there.
Yeah, I think you let me calm down a little bit. We just kind of went straight for a while. We did want to run the engines up, to a higher RPM, and just kind of let them, breathe a little to see how they were going to perform, and they did fine.
Yeah, and James really, because James is going with us. You can see the importance now of having James on this just this first 200 miles. He won't be with us the whole time. And as we let you fly and flap your wings on your own, we want to make sure that you're ready, and he is worth every penny, and we hope we don't even use him. I hope he's just a watch up there, his 2-3 hours.
But he's got great knowledge of the operations
of the boat,
and then he's got the electromechanical side.
He just jumps on here. We don't know how to turn the inverter on, and he jumps in here and starts just looking at things, and in his brain he just figured it out.
And it was because it was wired differently than normal.
Right.
Somewhere down the road it had gotten wired differently than normal.
Right.
It wasn't wired necessarily wrong. It was just different.
Normally, and he was able to look at it and just. And me and you were just scratching our heads saying, what the hell?
But then you got me calmed down. We kind of took I got to get the feel of the wheel and the responsiveness of the boat. And then what I thought was really good is then you had me go down and do some turns, right? To kind of learn that pivot point of the boat.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's something that every boat's different. So, knowing your length, but then knowing where that boat kind of pivots is important.
Very important.
And then so then we came back up the ICW against the current, and you had me literally steering the boat with only the gears and then the throttles, but the gears first only,
Right.
crawling along because we were going into a little current, and then, using throttle to get a little more forward momentum. And, that really started to get me to understand how those gears and throttles work together to position the boat.
Yeah,
right?
it is, and then it's just hand-eye coordination,
Right.
and it's hard for me to explain to somebody exactly how to drive a boat because there's a feel to it too. Just like when you're crabbing that plane down to the runway. I
Right.
loved crabbing, by the way.
Yeah.
I loved 40.
Yeah.
I loved that 40 knots of wind and then crabbing and hitting it. It feels like your tires are going to tear off, and then you just
Yeah.
go down the runway.
Yeah.
I personally loved it, but
Yeah.
I struggled with the twin screws, the twin sticks, but I want to encourage you that you will figure it out. It'll come
Right.
to you, and when it clicks, it's going to click.
Right.
And it's just time behind the wheel, and not too much time though. Do you know? Like before the loop, I was every single week. I would go to the fuel dock and I would gas it up.
Right.
So I'm going to recommend that you and
Right.
Becky, as you own the boat, every single time you come out. So if this boat ends up staying here for a month because of weather, every time you come down here now, you need to take the boat out at least once and take it, maybe practice going to the fuel dock. We don't need fuel anymore.
Thankfully, yeah, because of the pricing. But
Anyway, and then take it over to the dock and just practice going to that dock, especially in current.
almost like a touch and go, right?
Yeah, touch and go on the runway, and then take off down the thing here. And then I think next time, if whether we take off or not, we'll go out. We'll throw the anchor out. Just make sure that we can throw our anchor out and do stuff like
Verify
that.
the windlass is going to work, and those things. But yeah, initially I was a little concerned if we were looking at 2024 because we've got some other commitments going on in our lives, and I thought, well, am I really buying the boat too early? And
No.
now what I'm seeing is I'm going to need that time to, go through the boat, get it prepared, prepare myself, prepare Becky, get to become a well-oiled machine together. The three of us, it's me, Becky, and the boat.
Yeah, right.
And to really, become familiar, it's going to take a little time.
And my best advice to you is that you pretty much got to know how to command the boat. Like, I could single-hand this boat.
Right.
You probably saw that yesterday.
Right.
But I would have to be in command the whole time.
Yep.
I can't take it from you at the last second as we're getting ready to plow into another boat or somewhere out.
Now, that didn't actually happen,
no,
folks.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you understand what I'm saying, though.
Right.
I can't get somebody out of, if they're plowed into a boat, I can't get you out of that. You plowed
That's
into
right.
the boat.
Right.
But me driving this boat out of the marina, I could single-handedly put it in here and out of the slip, and you need to get like that for you and Becky.
Right.
And she's more calling out your distances, putting the lines, getting the lines ready, and then throwing the lines to the dock hands as you're coming in and out. So, and it's important that you learn that. But I think yesterday you got a little dose of reality.
I did. I got I thought it was a big dose of reality, not a little dose. But I brought it in. I was worried about another boat.
Well, you were already frazzled, and I didn't force you to bring it in, but I said if you're feeling it, bring it in.
Yeah, and that's the only way you're going to learn.
And it's the only way you're going to learn.
Right.
And you took it all the way till that final turn, and that's where we got in a little bit of trouble.
Right. Yeah, I was more worried about a boat to my left, and I got too far to the right, and I didn't give myself enough room to pivot.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, I was kind of like a goat tire, and I said, out time, and Paul, you took it over, and that was the value of you being there, right? Was then
right.
And then I went down and helped James be a deckhand, and we kind of fendered some corners, and you got it out of trouble, and then you really did single-handedly bring the boat in at that point. You got it and backed it in.
Yeah, right. But again, I've done it so many because this boat handles just exactly identical to my boat.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty easy for me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make it look easy for you. That's why I brought you back up there, because I said, you said, you don't you need me down? And I said, no, I need you up here watching what I'm doing here.
Yep.
And you need to start getting that lines of sight.
Yeah.
Because I knew I didn't really even need anybody to tell me when to back into the slip, because because from my boat it's almost the same look, so it was super easy for me to be able to do that.
And I would say no matter how good or how bad things may go on any given outing, is you just almost getting thrown from a horse. You just got to get back on.
Yeah, right.
And you got to try again, and it'll come.
It will come.
It will come.
Yeah.
Olympic athletes just don't, you decide to get off the couch and go do the Olympics, right?
Right.
They train, they practice, they get themselves prepared mentally and physically.
And that's what you're doing for America's Great Loop.
Right, and there's some of that in this as well.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. And part of it's getting to know the boat, driving the boat. And you may feel more comfortable on these dockings being down here, but I think you really need to get your line of sight up there.
Yep.
And then make that transition, because as you get into the locks, you may want to be down here.
Just as an extra hand.
Yeah,
in case
it's,
it's needed.
as a deckhand or something like that. And you have great visibility in this boat. I don't have the visibility you have, because my dinghy sits up on the front of the boat, so I lose some of that visibility. So I need to be up on top. But this particular boat, maybe you may feel more comfortable after you get to, because it doesn't matter where you're driving from. You may be more comfortable from driving down here, but you should be able to dock this boat in this slip up there or down here. It shouldn't really matter to you.
Right. And one of the benefits of the boat, right, is it's got the dual doors to the deck.
That's just,
right,
I mean,
straight through. So that was a big plus.
Even the doors on the side, that was so sweet. I mean, just being able to just walk, pull up the fuel dock, just walk. There's nothing to. I knew those were like nice, but I didn't realize how nice they were until yesterday when we docked it 3 or 4 times actually.
Yeah.
So, and it was just walking out that door was super nice.
Yeah.
But anyway, Steve, I do appreciate it. I think the viewers appreciate it. Make sure you guys leave those comments down below. Anybody has any questions, again, I'll say this again, we said it in part 1. Steve was happy to take time. He is a busy guy, and he is not a boat consultant, but he will talk to you. And
sure. I'm not that knowledgeable yet, but I can at least give you a perspective of somebody who's coming into kind of a different realm of boating.
And a non-knowing world of and give them a few minute perspective of what happened and how it happened and where your head was at and stuff like that. Yeah. So anyway, guys, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Leave the comments down below. I want to hear your comments. But Steve did a great job. I think, I don't know if we're going to get to take it out again before you leave, but we might.
Yeah, the weather's a little iffy today.
And we do have a few more projects to do.
Yeah.
We want to, and it's really is just the basics now, because it's, we make sure that our cooling system, and I'll preach this, we're going to make sure our cooling system, we don't care when the impellers were changed last, we're changing the impellers today.
Right.
We put new batteries in yesterday, so we don't have to worry about batteries. There was a couple of exost hoses that came up in the survey. We went ahead and changed those yesterday.
Yep.
So this time really
that punch list.
Yeah, that it really gave us time to get to know the boat really, really well.
Yep.
And then you're connected. You'll be one with the boat, and then learning to drive her will be a whole another experience.
Yes.
And I'm glad you bought her, and I think she's going to do well for you on the loop. I think you guys will be do super, super well with her, and I'm excited to see her when she's done, and support you throughout the entire loop.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you doing it, and I look forward to the next part of the journey when we actually
take it up there. Yeah,
take it up.
I hope we get some good videos of it, because I think it seems like a really nice boat. It's driving it yesterday, like my transmissions don't shift like these ZF transmissions.
Yeah.
They were
like we talked about, I think, in a previous conversation. The boat has good bones.
Oh, absolutely,
right? Yeah. It has some cosmetic needs on the decks and stuff, but the foundation's there.
Yeah, like your engine room, and mechanically this boat it's going to rock and roll, and it's going to get decent fuel mileage, believe it or not. And I know that's going to be important in the years to come here.
It may be, yeah. Really important.
Yeah, anytime you can get over that 2 miles to the gallon, 2.5 miles a gallon, that's huge. And the Perkins typically get better fuel mileage than the Lehmans. Right. And then you throw some ZF transmissions behind there, big guy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sexy.
Yeah. But I know you've said in the videos too, right? I mean, yes, fuel prices and fuel mileage are a factor, right? But when you start talking about the overall expense of the loop,
it's the cheapest part.
Right. It's not the only factor, right? No. And it shouldn't be a barrier, I don't think, for you to consider the loop. It's certainly an economic consideration, but it shouldn't. If it's a showstopper, I'm already seeing we've got this delay, right? I may incur different expenses than I expected before I actually get to go, up the river and get out of this marina. So there's always those unknowns and those unforeseen expenses. So I'd say don't panic over fuel prices. As we've seen over the years, they'll go up, they'll come back down. But to your point in your other videos, they're not your only economic consideration.
No, I think people get too hung up on that. And right now it's important for us to get the boat up there. The price of the fuel is still, even on America's Great Lakes, I think this next year, maybe if $5, you know, mine was $3 cost averaging. This year, maybe $5, maybe even $6. But it's still not as expensive as people think or make out to it.
Right.
Make it out to be.
In the grand scheme of things.
In the grand scheme of things, yes. It's still one of the cheapest parts about the trip, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, peace out. Remember, live life with no regret. Again, hit that like and subscribe button. We surely do appreciate it. And if you got any questions, make sure you leave a comment down below, and we'll get back to you. Because you watch the comments too, and you'll react to the comments too.
Yeah, I've been following your channel for a while, and
and I appreciate it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good information there, right? And so, you know, take it.
But buying a boat is poor information, right?
Yeah, the sugar pile. That's a whole nother video.
Anyway,
Thanks, Paul.
Peace out. No regret. Bye.